Let's talk Guild Boss. Some heroes are much better for Guild Boss than others. If you're interested to see what other people use, you can go to the damage ranking and then go world ranking. Here you can see top 100 scores, and also if you want to see the specific builds, you just click on the icon and you can see what gear they use and the stats. I have Hex and Zilito as my top damage dealers. I recently picked up Valeria, but before that I used Abomination. If he's geared well, he does decent damage, but why is he also useful is because he helps you test out different compositions because of his skill Ultimate Torment. If you cannot break a shield and your Abomination can survive the blast, you wouldn't lose your key. So every time I want to test different gear or a slightly different team, Abomination will be my lifeline. I also use Liar because of her passive. When the ultimate is triggered, applies a damage increase to all allies in range. Because I only picked up Valeria recently, she's not built that great. Also, I used all those legendary skill crystals I had, and not even one went into the ultimate. It's the first time I see something like this happen. When I started pushing Nightmare 3 and Nightmare 4, I started using Mary instead of my weakest damage dealer because she applies two debuffs, vulnerability to physical damage and vulnerability to magic damage. These are very useful, plus 20%. And I guess it depends on your team, but it most likely would increase your score compared to your weakest damage dealer. So unless you're getting these debuffs from someone else, someone like Mari or Aeon are great options. Once she is skilled up, she also applies 20% of each debuff. I started using Aeon in Nightmare 4 because I was struggling with the third shield and sometimes I would break it, sometimes not, maybe because of Hex RNG. Her damage output is not amazing, but her main purpose is debuffing, and she does output a lot more than Mari. So I try to use anything to help me break the third shield more reliably. When you're building a debuffer like Aeon, the main stats you're looking for is HP and attack speed. You need enough HP for her to be able to survive, and also enough attack speed so she can keep up the debuffs all the time. Of course, I also try to give her as much damage as possible, but her main job is to debuff the guild boss, so you can worry about that later. And this is how my Mari is built. When I started using Mari, I wasn't worried about anything else rather than HP for her to survive and attack speed to keep her debuffs on the boss all the time. As you can see, she's not even fully promoted. If you are going to be using Mari, make sure you don't use the ultimate, it does nothing on the guild boss. You can use advanced strategies which include Liar, Eloin, Hollow and Laurel, but I think you need really good gear for them to really work well. And I don't mean on them specifically, more on your top damage dealers. At the beginning you might be using two healers, but later you want to make sure you can keep up your team alive with only one healer. I use Liar, mainly because of the damage increase, but if you have Eloin, she's also great because of her rage regen. Other healers to mention are Hollow, of course. Again, she has rage regen and Vortex because of his range. He does not bring anything else apart from healing, so he's not the best option in my opinion. But it is possible for him to keep your whole team alive even on Nightmare 4 if built well enough. What really helped me push through Nightmare 4 and get to the 20k chest, apart from getting better gear, is using a debuffer, as I showed you Mari or Aeon, and also the timing of the ultimates. I realized because I rely so much on Hex RNG, if I use his ultimate early, it helps. In fact, when I started using his ultimate early, I don't think I failed breaking the third shield, whereas before it was a bit of a RNG. So you can experiment with the timings as well. For Guild Boss, I use Araka with Invigoration set just to get the buff. And also Greed, again with Invigoration set just for the buff. Also because last healing range is not that big, I have A5 Wrath who can sustain himself just with Dolores heals. For the moment I use Wrath as my lord, and remember, if you place a unit from the Nightmare faction down and remove them, this buff keeps stacking. It does not matter that you've already taken them off. So if you put Wrath down, Greed, take off Greed and put another Nightmare unit, it will still keep going. And this is how my Dolores is geared. Obviously attack speed does nothing for her, so don't focus on it. Get as much attack as possible, as long as she can survive. So getting as much attack as possible is your first priority. And then, if you can maybe get some more rage regen. But attack and maybe HP, if she has problems surviving, are your main priorities. Maybe it's worth mentioning that a lot of people use Volca. Her ultimate also applies the vulnerability debuffs, but only for a short time. That's why it's better to use a debuffer who can keep them up all the time. Also, if you have a A1, she reduces the allies revival time by 25%, which can be useful if you cannot break a shield but one of your units survives, so you can place more units down until the rest of your allies are revived, so you can maximize your damage. I am going to show you my auto run for Nightmare 4, and I use the exact same heroes and placements for Nightmare 3 as well. As you can see, I place Hex, then I place Greed to buff him with the Invigoration set, then I place Zillitu, and I place Saraka to buff her with the Invigoration set. Also, because my Valeria is not built great, I've put her in range of my healer because Raph can sustain himself just from Dolores heals and his ultimate. Also, I use my Hex ultimate and Zillitus ultimate about 10 seconds earlier because they're fully skilled and last for 35 seconds. So what I do is use them about 10 seconds early, and 1 second before the shield appears, I use Dolores ultimate and then Silas and Valeria ultimates. As you can see, my Valeria died at the end. That's close to 27,000 blood. Hex is my top damage dealer. I do have A3 Pyros and I did some testing, but I couldn't get a higher score with the heroes I have. So for now, I'll be using Rough. Maybe I'll do some more testing later, but I reached my goal for the time being. As you can see, my Aeon did 3 million damage, which is not a lot, but it's better than what my Mary used to do, which was about 200k. My Silas is at the bottom with 20 million, but don't have a Vienna. If I can get my hands on her, his damage will increase substantially. That's it from me. Have a good day.